Welcome to my webinar, part of the NextRise 2020 conference. Today I'm going to be talking about what all startups should know about distribution. I'll just briefly introduce myself and my company so you know the context of this presentation. My name is Charles Fallon. I'm the president and founder of LIDD. And for the last 20 years, I've been consulting a broad array of companies from North America, Asia, and Europe in supply chain operations. LIDD is a company with three specific practice areas. We design, distribution, and manufacturing facilities. We implement technology to enable distribution and supply chain operations. And we provide consulting services in strategy and complex problem solving around the supply chain. We have offices in Montreal, Toronto, Los Angeles, and Seoul. Our clients, as I said, are a broad array of companies, from global leaders like Walmart and eMart to emerging disruptors who, one day began as startups and are now increasingly taking space in the market, like Beyond Meat, Blue Apron, Jet.com, and Rise Kombucha. So in today's presentation, I'm going to cover 5 things. What is distribution? Why does it matter? What are the basics of distribution? What are 2 classic mistakes that startup companies make when it comes to distribution? And finally, what's the most important lesson that I'd like to leave you with? So let's get into it. What is distribution? Well, I want you to think about 3 basic activities as being the heart of distribution. It is first the storage of inventory, the storage of inventory of finished goods that you hold to sell to your customers, that you hold to manage the variability in demand that will happen over the course of a week, a season, and a year. Secondly, it's the preparation of orders. It's taking a customer's demand and accessing inventory and turning that into an order ready for shipment. And finally, it's shipping to customers. And you can imagine these 3 activities. There are 2 areas where this happens. One, in a fulfillment center where I store inventory and prepare orders. And then in a transportation system where I deliver orders from various types of delivery vehicles. So why does distribution matter? Well, first off, and probably most basically, it's a necessary business function. You can't have a company without a distribution network. And it serves 2 important roles. First, it is the most important aspect of customer service. When you provide the right product in the right quantity, in the right condition, on time, you will delight your customers. And when you fail at those things, you will lose customers. So distribution is executed properly is a key feature of good customer service. The second thing is it is a cost, and you must do it cost effectively. Fulfillment and shipping can be anywhere from 5 to 15% of the total cost of doing business. And so to get it right means to get it at as low a level as possible while maintaining customer service. And another way I was saying it was, having a product does not give you a business. A great example was a client of ours, Meissen. Now, Meissen made what they called the world's greatest chef knife. They had thought very carefully about the design of the product. how the blade is shaped, how the handle fits in your hand, and how it would allow you to do wonderful work in the kitchen for years with a durable and reliable product. But having the world's greatest knife does not create a business. It only becomes a business when you can get an inventory of knives delivered to customers. And that missing link is distribution. So I want to talk a little bit more about customer service and why distribution matters. The formula for success of any business would be that the lifetime value of any customer is greater than the customer acquisition cost and the customer service cost. Pretty simple formula. Collect more from your customers than you spend on them. However, bad customer service lowers the lifetime value of a customer, no matter how good the product or service is. So if you're selling the greatest chef knife in the world, but you can't get it to your customers on time or in the right quantity, in the right condition, those customers will no longer purchase from you. They will be satisfied to go to the second best product in the world because they can count on the distribution system. So distribution is the foundation of customer service. And when a startup has to think about it in terms of keeping a customer delighted and doing business with you. A great example is the company Brandable. Brandable is a startup that was developing health and beauty products that appealed to millennials. The retailers Target and Walmart were eager to merchandise Brandable products. By having Brandable products in their stores, they could drive millennial traffic into their stores. And in North America, millennials are the largest consumer group in the market. However, Brandable was struggling to ship orders on time and accurately to the retailers, and consequently, Walmart and Target slowed down their order volumes. These customers, Walmart and Target, could not rely on Brandable to deliver what they needed at the time they needed it. So Brandable had to invest in its supply chain technology and develop a third-party logistics network to restore customer service and order volumes. And when they did, that exactly happened. Once Walmart and Target were able to confidently order from Brandable, the order volumes grew. Now, the second element of why distribution matters is cost effectiveness. All companies, mature businesses as well as startups, have many competing needs for cash. If you think about your business right now, there are many things that you could spend money on that make strategic sense. The first obvious one, customer acquisition, sales and marketing activities to make your consumers aware of your product and to incentivize them to purchase your product. There's also product development. You have one great product, but you know that there are related and connected products that you could develop that would further enhance your relationship with your customers. There's inventory. Just buying the inventory to sell to your customers requires cash. And then there's general administration of the business. You need a salary. Your sales team needs a salary. Your accountants need to get paid. There's so many demands on a business for cash that you never want to lock too much of it into distribution. You have to make sure you're cost effective with distribution. A very good example is a doomed meal kit provider, Chef, which at the time offered customers 2,500 recipes shipped as meal kits on demand direct to consumers. When we looked at the economics of Chef, their meal kits on a per meal basis, what we saw was they were losing $7.05 for every meal they shipped. It would have been in effect, cheaper to put $7 in an envelope and mail it to the customers rather than complete their order. And the reason for this was that their order preparation labor and their shipping costs, the delivery costs, were just so expensive, they could never manage to get the costs in line with revenues. So distribution can quickly become an activity that eats up much too much of your expenses and available cash. So we've talked about why distribution matters. It matters because it is fundamental to customer service and it's fundamental to good cost management. Let's talk about the basics of distribution activity and start with fulfillment centers. And the reason why we're going to go through a few of these slides to explain what these things are is that it's important for startups to understand what their distribution needs are. If they don't properly define their distribution needs, they will not either engage third-party logistics providers or set up their own distribution operations in a cost-effective and customer service-friendly way. So in a fulfillment center, there are 5 basic activities that you have to think about. There's receiving, which, as you can imagine, is the receipt of inbound product. But it's not just a physical act of taking stuff off a truck and putting it on a dock. It's also the verification of the product. We have to make sure that the product is the correct product, the correct quantity, in good condition, that it is what the purchase order or the inbound documentation says it should be. And we also need to label the inbound product, the received product. We have to label it so that it is ready to be handled in the fulfillment center. Oftentimes, the confirmation of a purchase order happens at the time of receiving, and that triggers a vendor payment. So receiving is much more than just taking product off a dock, and it has financial implications that are very important. Put away, well, that is the act of taking the product off the dock and positioning it into storage locations. One of the things you should understand is fulfillment centers manage inventory by individual storage locations inside the warehouse. Replenishment is the act of taking product out of the storage location and into a picking area where orders are prepared. Oftentimes, this is one of the places where product rotation, meaning first expired, first out, or first in, first out, is managed. The next and maybe most important activity is picking or order preparation. This is where we take inventory and we convert it into prepared orders by picking them either one order at a time or multiple orders at a time. And depending on the type of distribution you do, that could involve an additional step of packing the product. And the last step or function in a fulfillment center is loading. This means taking the product from the dock and loading it onto a delivery truck. Now, just like receiving, it isn't just the physical act of lifting product off the dock and into a truck. There are documents and information that needs to be prepared to accompany the product for shipping. Those documents are almost as important as the product itself. And oftentimes, once we've loaded the product onto a delivery truck, that often triggers a customer invoice and a means for you to receive payment. Order preparation, I want to just talk about, again, when a startup is thinking about their business, they should be understanding how they fit in the distribution world so they can properly set themselves up for success. There are 2 basic channels you should be thinking about. Is your product a business-to-business channel, meaning that your customers are either going to be businesses that use your product or businesses that resell your product, like retailers? If that's the case, then very often the orders will consist of full pallets of a single product or a mixed pallet of different products. In either case, these are very large, physically large orders and relatively simple to prepare. On the other hand, you have the business to consumer channel. And this means that we are serving and shipping to a customer base of consumers who are either at home or in the office. When we have these types of orders, they consist mostly of single units of one or more products that are packed into a shipping cart. So even though the individual shipment is much smaller than in a business-to-business channel, the actual labor required to complete the order is quite significant. The other aspect of distribution that we should get into a little bit is shipping. Now, when it comes to shipping, there are 4 basic ways that a product can leave your facility and arrive at a customer. The first is very simple, point-to-point shipping. You load the product onto a truck at your warehouse, and the truck drives away to another warehouse or to a facility where the customer has asked for it to be shipped. That's just point-to-point shipping, and typically it is used when the shipment uses the entire capacity of the truck, so it fills up the truck, or when the turnaround time is very, very short, meaning this order is placed now, and I expect the order to be shipped to me within an hour. That is something that happens very often in just-in-time delivery scenarios or manufacturing. If you can picture a Hyundai auto plant that at the very last minute has sequencing changes on its assembly line that it can communicate to its suppliers, who can then in turn sequence the parts for marriage onto the assembly line, and that can all happen within a 90-minute window, and therefore it's a point-to-point shipment. Or more simply, in more normal life, if you order a pizza from Domino's, that would be a point-to-point shipment very often. The right below it is the routed delivery. Now, the routed delivery means that you are going to take multiple shipments leaving your facility, and you're going to load them all onto a single truck, and that truck will make a route to all those delivery points and deliver the goods individually. Now, this is a very complex transportation system that I would hope startups do not need to use, but they're likely their transportation providers will be using some form of them, as I'll explain in a second. But one thing to keep in mind is that when you are running routed deliveries with multiple shipments on a truck, then there is a complexity of sequencing the loading so that I put onto the truck my last stop on the route. That goes first, and then the last thing I put on the truck is the first stop on the route, which makes it easy for the driver to access the product they need when they get onto the deliveries. Now, as I said, your transportation providers will likely use pooled shipping for those shipments that don't have a rapid turnaround, like in the pizza delivery scenario. Now, pooled shipping means that I will load from my facility many small shipments onto a truck. That truck will go to a cross-dock facility where all those shipments will be broken out onto different routes. So imagine I have a facility in Icheon. All the deliveries are sent over to a facility in Songpa, and then in Songpa there are 8 routes that will leave from a facility there, and so all my shipments will get sorted by route and then leave and be shipped to customers from a second set of trucks afterwards. That is basically how all parcel couriers work. Now, there's also international export, which may apply to some of the startups who are listening to this. And there we're talking about large orders where people are ordering a minimum quantity of 1 container load for shipment, and generally involves very long delivery cycles. So what are some of the mistakes that show up very frequently when startup companies get into distribution? The first thing that startup companies don't appreciate to the level they should is that information is king. And what I mean is that the quality and flow of your data, of your information, matters as much as the quality and flow of your product. So you have to structure your data to scale. Your data has to be standardized and available. Very often, we will see startup companies, as an example, that will take a product and will use different sized finished master cartons to pack the product. Well, your supply chain partners are going to struggle with that, and it will make you an unreliable partner. What they want is information about standardized products sent to them in advance of receiving your product that they can count on, that they can plan their own operations on. So standardizing your data, structuring your data to scale, and communicating that data electronically is key. We had a client who was the CEO of a startup that made toys, very, very charming toys for the North American market. And the CEO had a meeting with a global retailer, when he returned from the meeting, he was very happy and had a first purchase order in hand. But he said something that was very interesting. He said they weren't really interested in our toys. They liked the toys, but that wasn't what mattered to them. All they wanted to talk about was if we could do electronic data interchange. How we integrate into their supply chain matters. And this is, again, one of the most important things and one of the biggest mistakes startups make. Today's supply chains are very information intense. They require information from you, and the cleaner, more standard and consistent and available your data is, the better a supply chain partner you are. And the better a supply chain partner you are, the better your relationship will be with your customers in the long run. The second mistake that startups make is that you have this product or service that is very innovative. You've invented something that the world wants, that didn't know they wanted, and that solves a problem that we have been struggling with all our lives. Well, just because your product is innovative doesn't mean that every aspect of your business should be innovative. Too many startups think that because they're doing something cutting edge, that their distribution has to be cutting edge. And often what that means to them is we need robots, we need automation. Keep your focus on basic distribution that provides excellent customer service at an effective cost. Focus your time and energy inventing a perfect product. Distribute it in very tried and true ways. Do not reinvent the wheel. A classic example of this is the startup Webvan. So Webvan launched in 1999, more than 20 years ago, to sell groceries online in the United States. They spent $1.2 billion to build a network of automated fulfillment centers across the USA. So here's a classic problem. they're going to sell groceries online, and because they're going to sell groceries online, their grocery fulfillment centers have to be automated. By 2001, 3 years later, they had revenues of 179 million, but expenses of 525 million. They filed for bankruptcy and disappeared overnight. None of the leadership of Webvan had any grocery experience, but they all thought they could reinvent the grocery wheel. Had Webvan started more conservatively, more basically, with simpler distribution functions, they never would have had the $525 million of expenses to manage against the $179 million of revenues. But because they had spent so much money trying to invent the warehouse and the fulfillment center of the future, they went bankrupt very rapidly. The most important thing is flexibility. When we talk about distribution, when you're a startup, it's very important that you keep flexibility in mind. There's the famous quote, "No plan survives contact with the enemy." And that means for a startup company, you've developed a product, you have a business plan, you're excited to get to market. And as soon as you get to market, well, your plan's going to have to change because customers are going to begin to purchase and consume your product. They're going to have feedback and they're going to behave in a way you did not expect. And that feedback and that behavior is going to make you evolve your business to serve the market better. And in order to evolve your business to serve the market the way the market wants, you will need to have a distribution solution that can evolve with it. And a great example of this is a client of ours, Nourish Snacks. When Nourish Snacks launched in 2014, they launched a snack subscription where each week subscribers, you'd sign up for the subscription, and each week Nourish Snacks would send a box of with a selection of healthy, delicious snacks. And every week, that selection of snacks would change. So you'd get a new box, new flavors. And, when you talk about it as a business plan, that sounds like a great idea. But within months of launch, they noticed they started losing subscribers and their sales volumes were falling. When they looked into why their sales volumes were falling, they found out that customers loved the snacks, but not all of the snacks. And customers really wanted the opportunity to order the snacks that they wanted. They did not want a random selection of snacks every week. They wanted to order what they want in the quantity they wanted. So Nourish Snacks quickly pivoted to allow for on-demand ordering of snacks. But think about this. Running a subscription-based snack business versus an on-demand snack business are completely different. Your inventory planning is different. Your fulfillment operations are different. And if Nourish Snacks was too restricted by its distribution operations to allow for that change, they would have gone out of business. Fortunately, they were able to pivot. They did have flexibility in their system. We were able to rework processes and material handling systems to create this on-demand fulfillment option. And today, Nourish Snacks sells online to customers and provides its snacks through wholesale channels. It no longer has a subscription business. So, whatever startup you are launching, one thing I can promise you, it will change once you are deep into operations. As soon as you learn what the customer wants, you will find out it's slightly different or very different from what your business plan said it would be. You have to keep flexibility so that you can pivot and adapt to the market demand. Well, I'm going to summarize now with the key takeaways of this webinar. What I hope that you will all take away with you as you go off and enjoy the rest of this conference. One, distribution is customer service. Distribution matters because it is the key to ensuring that your customers, whether they are consumers or wholesalers or retailers, whoever that customer is, if you do not execute distribution well, you will lose customers. If you execute distribution well, you will delight and grow your customer base. The next is you must focus on cost-effective distribution. It's very easy to let distribution costs swallow important amounts of cash that you have better uses for in other business activities. Number three, understand your distribution, the basics of distribution and your needs. Understand the 5 basic functions of fulfillment, what order preparation is, and how you deliver product through transportation, so that you can define what you need and find the right third-party logistics providers or build the right distribution operations for yourself. Number 4, data is as important as product. Supply chains are information heavy, highly technologically advanced human activities. Your supply chain partners, both the vendors and your customers, are going to want reliable, scalable, electronic data from you. And that will be as important to your success as your product. Number 5, don't waste money innovating distribution. Innovate on products, innovate your services, but just stick with tried and true distribution. There are going to be robots in your future. You don't need them on day one. And the last thing is maintain operational flexibility. Set up your distribution operations, whether that is through partnership or your own facility. Set it up keeping in mind that you need to be flexible. You need to pivot. You need to adapt to what customers want. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I'm very grateful to all of you who've listened. I look forward to the opportunity to meet with you when meeting in person is easier to do. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you very much and have a great day.